Good morning, students. Today we will talk about comparing and contrasting first and second languages. If you are ready, let's start. So, our first page contains of information about understanding second language acquisition. So, the first language acquisition is studied in order to have a better understanding of second language acquisition. Yeah. So it means like first language, it's your fundament to your second language acquisition, I can say, because the person who learned like a language, I mean the first language, can exactly acquire a second language too. So teachers should draw conclusions from first language acquisition to teach in a better way the second language. So it means that teachers, like when teaching students, they pay attention to their first language, the level of the acquisition of first language, and only after that they can choose for their students a method for teaching a second language. Let's go on. But unfortunately, we have like concerns about first language and second language acquisition. So the first one is repetition is the best method for learning. So unfortunately, repetition is not the best method for learning. Maybe yes, but studying is a key point in every language, in learning process of every language. So learning a second language through imitation. So you cannot learn a language through imitation, never forget it. You can like do other things by imitating, but not learning languages. So practice of sounds and then practice of sentences. You don't have to waste your time in order to practice your sentences. It comes naturally. So that don't try to do it and follow the order, listen then speak. No, it depends on the personality, it depends on people, because we have variety of people who at first learns how to speak and only after that he or she listens, or like he learns grammar rules. So natural order of language: listening, speaking, reading and writing. Yeah? So among them we also have grammatical rules and grammatical structure and vocabulary. So learners should be able to learn a language without translation. No, unfortunately they cannot learn a language without translation. Even I, when studied English language, I all the time translated every single word, and you know that it was my huge mistake, because you don't have to like, even if I speak about translation, you don't have to translate word by word. Yeah, you should understand the context, the content of the text, so that don't try to translate all the words. So try to use your guessing abilities. Yeah, let's call it like guessing abilities. So in this case, you will achieve something. So grammatical conceptualism is unnecessary. No, unfortunately, it's wrong, because you should know the concepts of grammar. Yeah? So in this case, it is necessary thing, but it's not unnecessary. So types of comparison and contrast of learners. First and second language acquisition in children, holding age constant. So it means that learning languages depends on age. Yeah? So for example, when you are 4 or 5 years old, you may learn the colors, the numbers. Yeah? But when you get older, you will try to achieve more. You will try to get more data, more knowledge regarding the target language. So it is about the first statement. Let's turn to second statement. So second language acquisition in children and adults holding second language constant, and first language acquisition in children and second language acquisition in adults. So as you know, we have first language acquisition in children, and we are adult, we don't have to acquire a first language because we already have it, and we need to acquire a second language. In this case, the critical period hypothesis. So as you know, we have the critical periods. Unfortunately, in every sphere, it is not about only learning languages. So it is even biologically identified period in which language can be learned more easily. So, and also I argue with this statement because it depends on the person, as I mentioned above. So when people can acquire language speaking, like language skills easily, whilst the others cannot. There's a process, or there's a progress, yeah? Once the period is over, the difficulty for acquiring increase quite a lot. It's written about the second language acquisition. So initially the theory was only considered for first language acquisition, but later in a second language acquisition it has to do with the accent present in second language. And how do you think, is it possible to be a successful user of second language? So as I always say, it depends on people. Yeah, it is on the hand of people. If you have a motivation, if you have a desire to learn a language, you will do it. Believe me, you will acquire a second language. You will become as an progressive even person in second language acquisition. So neurological considerations. It's literalization. Literalization means the division of the brain into hemispheres. It is a slow process. So, as you know, the literalization is a slow process which happens in our brain and can determine if a person have an accent or not in second language, because it's responsible part of our brain which is responsible for our accent. So we will have it or not. But I do believe that in acquiring a second language, we all have accent. Yeah? Maybe after living in a target country, for 10 or 15 years, we may lose accent, but otherwise we will have it. So right hemispheres participation on language acquisition. So as it's written, you should choose right hemispheres. So psychomotor considerations. So it is the medical terms, as you see. Maybe we cannot understand all the terms. So they are the things which are responsible for our every skill, for accent, for our memory, for memorizing vocabulary, for grammar structure, for logic. So you can see them here. So as it's written, accent is not everything in language learning. Yeah, accent will not decide anything, because except accent, we have the grammar structure, we have grammar rules, sentence structure, we have the skills, vocabulary, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So that if your accent is bad in target language, never be upset about it. It is not the only problem in second language acquisition, and you can work on it and you can lose your accent. Cognitive considerations. It is the development of human cognition in second language acquisition. As I said, as time passed, if you practice your target language, you will improve your cognitive skills. So awareness in younger learners, it means that as younger a person, it will be as simple or as easy, I can say, to acquire a new language. So that I think that it is the best age, maybe starting from 10 or 12, the best age for starting acquiring a new language. And then we have affective considerations, influential considerations, even I can say. So they include the factors such as self-esteem, empathy, extraversion, inhibition, imitation, anxiety, and etc. As you know, in order to acquire any skill, not only learning languages, we should have self-esteem, a high self-esteem. If you don't have it, if you don't have self-confidence, you cannot achieve anything in this life. And you should be extrovert in learning languages because you have to speak, So in mathematical, like in math, if you are introvert, it's okay because you will write, you will think logically, But in language learning, you cannot be an introvert person. If you will be an extrovert, it will be really easy to acquire a new language, to acquire a new culture, new mentality easily. So language ego, we have the term language ego, which means like self-identity linked with language. Self-identity linked with language means, I have mentioned about it in our first lesson, I guess. So you should at first identify yourself, why you need the language, why. So maybe for entering the university, for passing an examination. So you should have aim, and you should ask yourself why I need to learn a new language. Only in this case you can acquire it beneficially. The language can work for you, otherwise you will work for language. So that I think that you should know the difference between. And all the time try to make the language work for you, not you for language. If you feel the feelings, anxiety, if you are afraid of speaking, if you are afraid of acquiring new language, you will not achieve anything. And positive, negative attitudes towards the language. So how the positive and negative attitudes can come towards the language. So it means that, as I mentioned, the positive attitudes towards the language, it's connected with extrovert people, because as you are extrovert person, you can easily acquire the grammar rules, you can be easy, like flexible person, to learn the language, but otherwise it can cause to negative effects. So there will be, like in language learning process, there also may be peer pressure. It means that you are afraid of making mistakes in front of your classmates. So imagine that you have a friend, she is really intelligent, she is really smart in your target language. So maybe she knows the language for 70% and you know it for 50%, and all the time you are ashamed of speaking in front of her, and it's called as a peer pressure. So for the next time I want to give you a question and we will have debate, and you should answer these questions. When do you think it is easier for a person to learn a second language? You will write about age, about levels of age, as a child or as an adult, and why. You should answer the magic question, why. So regarding the critical period hypothesis, do you think it is still important nowadays to get a native accent? How would you, as a future teacher, deal with the accent issue in an English as a foreign language class? So it's our question, for debate, and get ready to speak. You should be all active in our lesson. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.